Native land, though tribes and tongue may. Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land, though tribes and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians all are proud to serve our sovereign motherland. Our flag shall be a symbol that truth and justice reign. In peace, oh, back to honor it, and this we count as gain. To hand unto our children a banner without stain. O God of all creation, grant these our one request. Help us to build a nation where no man is oppressed, and so with peace and plenty, Nigeria may be blessed.
Warm greetings and welcome to today's edition of the African Leadership Series, the African Leadership Group, the Nigerian Leadership Series. My name is Itwa Igodalo, and I'm grateful and glad that I am here with you today. And I hope all is truly well with every single one of us. Today, we're going to be talking about the foundations of nation building. The foundations of nation building. And we have an entrepreneur, a politician, an intellectual, an activist for social justice, human rights, and a person who is very interested in sustainable development and economic empowerment via entrepreneurship. He was born in 1964 in Kafanchan. He graduated from the Department of Architecture, Ahmadu Bello University in 1987 with a BSc in architecture. He holds an MBA from the same Ahmadu Bello and a postgraduate diploma in education from the National Teachers Institute, Kaduna. He's a member of the Nigerian Institute of Architects and Nigerian Institute of Management and has 25 years post-graduation experience cut across professional practice, public service, entrepreneurship, and voluntary services. He's founded many companies: Benoni Oil, New Frontiers Marketing Consultants, Habib & Co. Merchants. And he's also trying to set up a school. He's really looking at how to build a nation. Please welcome with me Sanusi A.S. Maikudi. Sanusi A.S. Maikudi. God bless you, sir. How are you?
I am fine. Thank you, my brother.
It's good to have you on the program.
My pleasure.
Thank you very, very much for accepting to be part of this program.
You are welcome.
Where, are you in Abuja or Kaduna?
I am in Kaduna.
Yeah, in Kaduna. Okay, how's Kaduna? I hope all is well.
Kaduna is fine today.
Oh, fantastic. Were there riots in Kaduna or bad governance? What was it like?
It was tough as usual. You know, Kaduna is a fragile.
Mm.
Kaduna is a hotbed of crisis.
Yeah.
This is the early 80s.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has become dismal.
Mm.
It keeps erupting, even though leaders are doing their best to curtail the trend.
Yeah. Maybe that's even a good place to start from. Why has Kaduna been such a hotbed, and why does it consistently is a hotbed, and it seems as if the problem is insoluble?
Well, there could be many reasons, depending on who the analyst is, who is discussing. But you know, the Kaduna is a transition zone between the far north and the middle belt, where you have significant population of the both demographies of the Hausa Fulani of the far north and then the southern Kaduna ethnic nationalities. They are living in a state close proximity more than any other state in the north. You have southern Kaduna, you have northern Kaduna. So it is the interplay.
Network is not. We're losing you. Your network doesn't seem very strong. We should be doing a few more trial runs.
No, network. It's network. It's network.
The cluster sucks.
Demographics, identities, positions, and stuff like that. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's better now. Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I was saying that crises are largely identity driven. You have fault lines that the crisis exploit, like religion, like ethnicity, like sectionalism. The ideological one is not very prominent in Nigeria. That is the conflict between the rich and the poor, based on the Marxist analysis. But the primordial division among society, ethnicity, religion, sectionalism were the drivers of the conflict, based on the historical antecedents. These are some of the factors that made Kaduna vulnerable to crisis, in my own understanding.
So how do you think these issues can be resolved going forward? And what should we do as, what should the leadership be doing? What should we do as individuals? And what should we do as NGOs and people groups?
Okay, I think some people are trying to be romantic about conflicts, that conflicts can engineer development, they can engineer growth. Some of us want to disagree because conflicts destroy human lives, valuable properties, and they negate and neutralize the little development that it is on the ground. So the most important thing is to accept as much as possible common humanity. We are all human. We are all descendants of Adam and Eve. Some of the identities that we have, like the religion we pursue, our ethnic background, the part of the state or country we come from, are not decided by us. Most of us found ourselves to be where we are. So there are models of multiculturalism, models of social justice, where you don't discriminate against anyone, but the majority, the minority, the male versus female, the gender discrimination, the class discrimination in the haves and the haves not. We should try to be just, equitable, fair, and we should try to grow the economy in such a way that it can cater for the welfare of the majority of the people. A situation where you have 188 million people in multidimensional poverty in a country of about 230 million. That is a recipe for crisis, because a hungry man, as they say, is an angry man. The way we manage our country, contrary to global best practice, is that many people are left behind. Sometimes not on account of their own doing, but sometimes on account of their own choices. So, but as leaders, as opinion shapers, we have a duty to leave no one behind in social justice, in good governance, in inclusive, sustainable development. This is very, very fundamental.
All right, no problem at all, sir. Let's look at Nigeria and look at the things that we need to do to build a strong and sustainable nation in Nigeria. What are your thoughts? What do you think the challenges are with Nigeria, and how do we overcome these challenges?
Okay, thank you very much. My first point is that let's go back to history a little. Nigeria, whose project is it? Is it the project of Nigerians, or the idea of Nigeria was imposed on Nigerians by an external force? We all know the answer, that Nigeria, as it is today, is a product of British colonial interests. And colonialism is not a benevolent project. It is an exploitative imperial project where the imperial power decide to conquer some people and initiate a trajectory that will serve their own interest. That's the foundation of Nigeria. I'm not sure if anybody will disagree. Had it been there was no British colonialism, there wouldn't have been Nigeria the way it is today. So, having said that, the British came, conquered the different entities that now constitute Federal Republic of Nigeria, and then they left it as an independent nation. And our people celebrated the freedom, 1st October 1960. And they started the process of nation building. So as at that time, we accepted our destiny as conceived, initiated, and launched by the British. So we had crop of leaders from 1960 to date that have tried to fashion a nation out of Nigeria using different tools, different strategies, such as the National Development Plan 5, the Structural Adjustment Program, the 3 R's of President Gawan after the Civil War, the transformation agenda of President Goodluck Jonathan, the Vision 2020 of late General Abacha, the next program of former President Buhari, etc., etc. We have had a lot of blueprints. a lot of plans, a lot of agendas, but they have largely failed to deliver on core objectives. The key objectives was to center on the individual Nigerian. How can he live safely? How can he grow economically, socially, culturally? How can we maintain our freedom and independence? How can we achieve sustainable, inclusive human development for all? Now the country is even regressing. We are going backward rather than forward. So we have a very big challenge or challenges in our hands. I have talked about poverty. You can also talk about corruption. You can look at the number of out-of-school children. You can look at the ineffective and expensive governance system. Even though democracy is celebrated across the world, but in Nigeria, democracy has become a nightmare. It is very expensive, consuming large resources, and people's living standard, people's sustainable prospect is dwindling day by day. So what do? We have a number of propositions. If you scan the ideas that are coming, recently, at the last protest, end bad governance. What is wrong with ending bad governance? There is nothing absolutely wrong with ending bad governance. All the political parties promise good governance. All the politicians during campaign and in their written manifestos promise to give good governance. But is that what we see in the reality? That's not what we see in the reality. So if some people said, look, let's have an agitation to end bad governance, there is nothing wrong with it. But the organizers were intimidated by the powers of the state because they saw what happened to the promoters and the leaders of NSAS protest. I learned over 1,000 of them are still in detention all this long. So they went underground. They were afraid. And the other people that came out of the field to protest, there was no leadership. So it became violent in some places. And some people, including the state agents, infiltrated, and it went out of control. Some people lost their lives, which is sad. Some properties were damaged. And this is one of the reasons that some people said, we are not mature enough to do peaceful protest. We should find alternative means, probably through voting out bad governments. But we know our elections leave a lot to be desired. That's one of the weaknesses of our democracy. When we say we don't want military rule that access power through the barrel of the gun, let's do democracy so that we can elect credible, acceptable, competent leaders that will govern our nation democratically. But then you have problem with the election. There is low voter turnout. There are extensive use of money to the extent that many people are questioning the election result, that they are not credible. They do not reflect the true wishes of the majority of the voters. People protested up to the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court decided that there was substantial compliance. So we are back to the trenches again on how to go about it. But building a nation is about the citizen, is about the sanctity of the human life, is about the right of the individual citizen and their aggregation into groups, be it household, be it communities, be it nationalities, be it states, be it federating units, whatever you call it, it is a human enterprise. It is about making life better for the people. Once a system cannot guarantee the basic minimum human requirement for the citizen, that system has failed to justify its core mandate and core expectation. It is even in the Nigerian constitution that the security, welfare, and prosperity of the people shall be the key business of government. But now we are seeing more resources, more political will, more energy, more enterprise is being apportioned to the operators of the government machinery over and above the ordinary citizens. And this is not healthy because the beneficiaries is very tiny minority compared to the generality of the people. So the Nigerian governance architecture need to be looked at. That is why we are talking about some philosophical, ideological foundations for nation building. And the proposition number one is that the citizen should be at the center of the nation building enterprise, not the politician, not the government machinery, not a particular socio-economic class as we have now.
Okay, you mentioned a few things, and I'm going to ask Pastor Sonny to continue from here. But I want to ask you one or two questions over what you discussed and see how you think about it. You said, number one, we were compelled together, let me use that word, by the British, that if the British had not come, there would have been no Nigeria. Do you think colonization was a mistake? And do you think it's better to let Nigerians evolve by themselves or divide into federating units and then let each unit go? The North go, the South go, the West go, the Southeast go, or let them decide among themselves which ones of them want to be nations. And let's have a referendum along those areas and just let there be peace so that each region can decide how they want to develop. Because he says if there was no British, there will be no Nigeria. So what you're saying, in effect, was that it was a forced coalition of unsuspecting people who did not have an agreement or a say in how they came together. So maybe you want to look at that. I mean, you could have even had a whole West African nation with all of us being one country, Ghana, Togo, Ivory Coast, everything. But now they've sort of separated us, even divided us by language that is foreign to us. But now you go to Ivory Coast, they speak French, go to Togo, they speak French, go to Republic of Benin, they speak French, they feel French, they act French. And here, Nigeria will feel English, speak English, act English, and so on and so forth. Is that a solution, a possible solution, and a possible discussion? Why are we forcing ourselves together? Why don't we wake up, smell the coffee, and come to some agreements? What are your thoughts? And if you think we should accept what the British has done, how do we then make this nation truly viable and work at making it what it could be? Somebody has even come to this program and said, why don't we even annex Togo, annex Republic of Benin, annex Niger and Cameroon, and form even a larger and greater nation? These are conversations we should have to see what really will benefit us. So I just want to know your thoughts on this matter, and then I'll ask Pastor Sonny to continue from there. Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to meet you, and I hope that along the line we can also deepen these conversations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the question. To me, we are not the only ones to be forced into a nation in human history. Nigeria is not the only one. If you look at the global history, I tried to, in preparation for this presentation, look at the trajectories of human civilization itself about 8,000 years ago to the present. I look at the Sumerian civilization down to renaissance of the Europe after to enlightenment. We are not the only people to be forced into a nation against our will. A greater majority of the countries existing now in the world, we are product of some internal or external power. So it is up to Nigerians to decide whether balkanization into ethnic enclaves or for us to continue with the project. But I assure you, whichever one we decide to go, is none of them is going to be an utopian. None of them is a silver bullet. Contrary to the popular narratives going on in the Nigerian public space, that I am so race, I want to govern myself, live on my own terms. We have models in history like Somalia. They are racially homogeneous, religiously homogeneous. They are everything together, common ancestry, common root, common location, but they happen to be one of the first states to fail in Africa. If commonality, if common ancestry is a recipe for longevity of politics, Somalia have no business failing. So to me, even smaller nations now are seeing disadvantage of being smaller, even though there is a global trend of micro-nationalism. If you look at the United Kingdom, there are some part of it trying to escape, to leave. If you look at Spain, there is part of Spain that is trying to leave. Globally, there is a rise in micro-nationalism. This is a counterbalance to the other global trend of globalization and regional integration, started by what you have like the European Union with the common currency, with a parliament, and it was similar to what you had under the Warsaw Pact, USSR. Many of them disintegrated, but you discover that if you break yourselves and you become small, depending your own independence also is an issue. So me, the way my own ideological understanding of the reality of Nigeria is to focus on social classes. If some of my brothers and sisters and friends from other parts of the country, they believe and are convinced that self-rule is the issue. Me in the North, I don't believe self-rule is that, because I witnessed Gawon regime. He's a northerner, 9 years. I witnessed Babangida, 8 years. I witnessed Shagari, 4 years. I witnessed Buhari, 8 years. I witnessed Eradua, 2 years. I witnessed Abacha. And how do the governance by the northern elite impacted on the average rural poor northerner? And by extension, you can ask the same question. If we disintegrate, you have Biafra Republic, we have Niger Delta Republic, we have Oduduwa Republic, we have Middle Belt Republic. Who tell the poor of those regions that the elites are going to serve them better? The elites are looking for their own fiefdom, where they will load it over their own people. As far as I'm concerned, this agitation for separation, it is not in the interest of the poor, the downtrodden, and the masses. It is elites that cannot get power at the center. They say, let me have my own kingdom where I will be a king. This is my own personal opinion. And I have been following the national conversation, because nobody can come to tell me that because somebody from my village or somebody from my tribe or somebody from my religion is the one ruling, that will automatically translate into a better life for me. It has not proved so from the Nigerian history. The elites are a class of their own, and the masses are a class of their own. Whoever is ruling there will be ruling class, leaders and followers, there will be the rich and the poor. So as far as I'm concerned, there are some advantages in trying to make Nigeria work, but that is an aspiration. There are aspirational thinking and there are operational thinking. If you review the Nigerian trajectory and the political economic existence currently, there are multiple forces at work. Some forces are centrifugal, while some are centripetal. Some are drifting apart. Some are trying to pull to the center, which can no longer hold control. So if you look at it carefully, the ruling elite from independence to date, Nigeria, we are losing the country called Nigeria. So there are two possibilities. It's either we get our acts together and fix the tragedy, or this bad governance, this corruption, this underdevelopment, this hunger, this injustice, this exclusion of others will result in automatic state failure. And that will lead to anarchy. So the Nigerians should be free to think and decide for themselves, but it should be knowledge driven. It should not be for some self-appointed arrowhead to decide for the people. And people should know the consequences of their decision. If you decide to break away, you say you don't want to be governed by Tinubu, yes, there will be another elite that is going to rule similar to Tinubu, because the campaign manifesto of Atiku and Peter Obi and Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu are largely the same because they are in the same political class. All of them said they will remove subsidy. All of them said they will unify the currency. All of them said they are going to privatize public enterprises. In other words, they are all subscribers and followers of the neoliberal economic policy, which is called capitalism, even though they are trying to put a new garment and call it by other names, but they are ideologically the same. Their political and economic philosophy is the same. If Atiku had won, he will have removed subsidy. If Peter Obi had won, he will have removed the subsidy. He will have unified the foreign exchange differential exchange rate. So as far as I'm concerned, the primary issue is that what model is it going to serve the majority of the people? Because a country of 230 million people, if you want to atomize it, you can have like 10, 15 countries that can come out of Nigeria. This one will say, I am this, I don't want to be with that, I am this. So even the breaking up itself, we have to think it through. So these are some of the issues, but the debate should continue. People should feel free. If Nigeria is not working, there are two options: dissolve it or fix it. To me, fixing it looks more rational because there is a bigger market, there is a bigger productive force. If we can invest in human capital, if we can introduce a system in which the life, the contribution, the privileges, the duties and obligations of individual citizens matter, that is fundamental. But if we are going to contract little entities, unbearable nations, which superpowers can manipulate and take over directly or indirectly, or plan their puppets to take over the affairs of the people, we are free to decide on our own. That's my take.
Thank you very much, Comrade Sanusi. Great. My name is Sonny Enebi, and I greet you as a fellow ABU alumni.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, great. I like the passion with which you have spoken. But I guess the real question that we need answers to is, you said if Nigeria is to be fixed, then we have to fix it. Fixing in your nature, in your own estimation, you say is more rational. The question is how? Because there have been a lot of arguments. Should we restructure? Should we devolve power to the states and make the center less attractive? I mean, that still speaks to the fact that every state in Nigeria, I'm sure you know, have something to offer. But at the moment, they all go into Abuja to share. So the answer we are looking for is, how do we fix this nation called Nigeria? You have said if Obi had win or Atiku, they will have all done the same. How do we make it impossible then for the elites to continue to take advantage of the ordinary citizens? How do we fix that?
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I have about 5 points to that.
Okay.
One, all Nigerians must be active citizens. The
How?
time you are discussing with friends is for somebody to tell you, I'm not a politician. I don't belong to any political party. So that means they are politically dormant. They only vote. They do not participate in the process of deciding who is going to govern the country. They are all lookers. They allow others to decide who is going to manage their own destiny. And when they are not happy, they start complaining. So you cannot be a passive, dormant onlooker in the affairs that affects your own destiny, that of your parents, that of your children, that of the whole people, and you say you are not a politician. We must show concern. We must partake in the political processes. That's step number one. The number of good Nigerians, excellent Nigerians, knowledgeable Nigerians, competent Nigerians, Nigerians with integrity, with global exposure, that have value to add to governance in Nigeria, that are out of politics. They are more than those in the politics. They allow a vacuum where incompetent rogues, people that are self-centered, people that are corrupt, people that are after personal aggrandizement at the expense of the country, to take over governance from the local government to the federal level. So the most important thing, it is a collective responsibility. And the name of the game is called active citizenship. You must be an active citizen. You must participate in whatever affects your destiny. That's number one. Number two, there is a lot of, we are playing with human capital development. There is a report by the African Progress Panel, African Progress Panel, constituted by Annan of Ghana.
Okay, we can.
Secretary General are not in school.
Okay. The network is a bit bad,
majority
so we can't clearly hear you. Okay.
In the school. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
If you can hear me, let me know.
All right, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Thank you. What I was talking about the effort of Kofi Annan.
Yes.
To help Africa get its act together through the Africa Progress Panel. In one of the work they did, they reviewed the African education, and they came up with two broad conclusions. One, majority of the children are out of school. In Nigeria, 18.3 as of June this year. Number two, majority of those in school are not learning enough when you compare them with their peers in other parts of the world. So you building a nation require human capital. We must prioritize education, knowledge, skills, character, values that will make individual the building block of the nation. If you don't have the human capital, people will come over and rob the resources of this country. You'll be sleeping, like the pillage of our solid minerals, like the industrial scale theft of crude oil in the Niger Delta, These are all because the state doesn't have the capacity to operate. It doesn't happen in other countries. That's my suggestion number two. Number two, we should build our human capital. And then the relationship between citizens, participation in governance, it should be merit-driven. Now, no matter how good a citizen is, if he doesn't have money, he cannot win election to be a councillor. The monetization of politics, using looted resources, people who access power, looted our resources, are using it to rule us directly or sponsor others to rule us indirectly as an enterprise. They call it state capture. Nigerians must work to end state capture, where a crop of elite will capture the state and its resources and political power, and they will be recycling themselves at the expense of the people. Number four, if countries cannot think, the United Nations and its agencies, the African Union, the ECOWAS, they have come up with agendas, with frameworks of governance, like the Millennium Development Goal, the Sustainable Development Goal. If we cannot think on our own, if we cannot come up with homegrown governance mechanism, we can adopt and adapt from any workable model from across the world. That's very fundamental. And above all, we need to be efficient in deployment of resources. I read a report by a Nigerian famous political economist from University of Ibadan, led Bade Onimode. In the Guardian lecture series of 1985, he said Nigeria, as at that time, have generated enough dollars, more than what the United States pumped into the Marshall Plan for the reconstruction of Europe, the entire Europe, after the Second World War in 1945. If the amount that the United States pumped for the reconstruction of Europe after the Second World War in 1945, Nigeria as a single country has had that money, and we are not done with power. We are not done with water supply. We are not done with road network. We are not done with education. We are not done with healthcare. We are not done with basic infrastructure. We have to look at how we spend our resources. Are we getting value for money? These are some of the areas in which individuals, groups, professional bodies need to intervene and work to redress the system for the benefit of the people. Even if Nigeria is going to be closed one day, we need to enjoy now. Why can't we have a good system before the closure date?
All right. Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well.
All right. So thank you very much for your, you have laid it out quite well. The question is, who will build the carts? Let me just put that out. And eventually you will be engaged by the people. All these things you have said, they are well said. We should do this, we should do this, this is what we should do. But you know that the political elites that are benefiting from the current system will not initiate this, okay? Now, if you say the people should initiate it, you yourself alluded to what happened during the EndSARS and even during the current End Bad Governance protests. The people are hiding, the government are muscling everybody. So how will these things that you have said, so what comes first? Who will organize who? Who will organize what? And how can we implement them?
If you get my first point about fixing Nigeria,
yes,
I told the audience that one of our major problems is that a lot of our compatriots will tell you they are not politicians.
So that's the question I'm asking. How do we galvanize them?
It is a collective responsibility. We start movements, form alliances. Under democracy, you need majority.
Yes.
You need majority. You look at the lesson from G34 to PDP. from a major individual Buhari getting other groups to form a majority. If really the progressive forces in this country want to take over, if really the suffering people want to take over, there are models enough in the world. If we are not going to do resurrection, if we are not going to do insurgency, you have to form movement, you have to form alliances, you have to build critical mass and the majority in the real world.
Yeah.
Not just in the virtual space. Because during the End Bad Governance protest, there were hundreds of meetings in the Twitter space.
Yeah.
And people don't go to the field. And thereafter, everybody retire to earning a living. So my own position is that when we were activists at Student Union and later in life, some people call us troublemakers. It was because we saw this danger coming. We saw some of it coming from our readings and from our studies of other societies. You can't lose opportunities without consequences. So it is not difficult to find out who is going to lead who in trying to salvage Nigeria. The simplest answer is that it is a collective responsibility. Let me tell you what is happening now.
Yes.
Nigeria came into existence through two dominant socio-political formations. We have centralized societies, those with rulers, and they have subdivision from the apex to the lowest level. Like in the far north, pre-Islamic, we have the Hausa civil state, and then during Islam, we have the Amphodium, and they have hierarchy. And there are some societies that are republicans in nature. They are not centralized. They are governed by council of elders. So whichever model we are going to take from our own history, the movement has to start from somewhere. One conscious, patriotic, selfless individual starting a movement, consulting people, engaging like minds, building alliances, building bridges, the same thing the ruling class do. The same thing the ruling class, they are united. When the lecturer Musair Adwa died, Chief Okadibo was in Katsina for 40 days because they were political colleagues. Patrick Delacole was there. So the ruling class are united in Nigeria. Why can't the masses and those who believe that they are being shortchanged, why can't they build bridges and unite? For national salvation, for the affirmation of our independence,
Okay.
for valuing human lives, for ensuring social justice.
Absolutely.
That's the issue. It is not difficult. We should start from somewhere, identify ourselves, and keep building alliances until we have the critical mass to democratically defeat the incumbent class that have rough-handled Nigeria.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. And that's what we are working at. That's why you are on our platform today. And thank you for taking the time. I mean, you have said it all. We keep building alliances until we form critical mass. I see somebody saying, even on the space, that we need enough elite consensus to be able to push out, because we have to also shape in the conversation for the others that have not gotten the opportunities we have. But let me digress to something else that we'll look at also in helping to build a nation that is built on justice, equity, fairness, and strive to all. How would you say we can address historical injustices that have happened over the years in Nigeria in order to promote genuine reconciliation and reduce the mutual suspicion among the various federating or ethnic groups in Nigeria? So even if we were to build this consensus, which is very possible, but I guess most of the thing is the agenda that one part may be pursuing may be different from the other. And part of the reason is that there have been some injustices that have happened over the course of our evolution as a nation. How would you say that should be addressed and promote reconciliation, genuine one?
Let me tell you.
Tell me.
The people are at liberty to decide.
Yes.
Whether to look at the current injustice of today or to go back to the injustices of the past. Because there is nobody in history that will tell you the injustice was not meted on him or his people or his ancestors. We have to decide, where are we going? Are we going forward or we are going backward? Let me tell you, this is personal. I suffered personal losses in some of the crises. Personal losses, direct personal losses. My grandfather, father of my mother, slaughtered. And the person who slaughtered him picked his phone and called me. I have slaughtered your grandfather. But I don't care. It has gone. My grandfather has gone. Now it is my own survival and that of my children. I'm not going after any historical injustice. I am going to say, how do we have a better life that injustice will never happen again? There were enough injustices in history that will take our lifetimes. We have not finished addressing them. They are too large, too many, too perverse. We can open a canker worm, a Pandora box, that everybody will be a claimant. To me, what has happened has happened. Some of them are addressable. Some can never be addressed. And it is part of the global human heritage. The first woman, all the folk.
Okay. We have lost you there a bit, but if you can hear me, just readjust yourself and maybe we can hear you. Yeah.
He's still on. His
Yeah.
audio is working, but we can't hear him.
Are we together?
Yes, we are together now. Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
I am putting it to the house that injustices are part of human history. Some are overtaken by event forever. Some of them are not addressable. So we should prioritize those that are sure of addressing them. Like in South Africa, where you have people under the apartheid, where the system of apartheid enslaved, oppressed, harassed the African population. There was Truth and Reconciliation Committee. But it was after independence, under Mandela, he decided that. But now, without taking power, you are talking of historical injustice. You think you are going to superintend your seeking of redress? So we have to prioritize. How do you return power? How do you put the individual citizen of the center of the equation? After doing that one, once you capture power, you can decide to right the wrongs that are rightful. Those that are not rightful, you try to give a better society, social justice to the descendants of the victims of the previous injustice. And anyone that is addressable should be addressed.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You have spoken well. Let me take you to another part of this conversation, and this is also very personal to me. I read in your profile you were born in Kafanchan. You probably went to primary and secondary school there. I was born in Kaduna, and I went to primary and secondary school in university in Zaria. And I mean, we were probably born in the same decade. I saw your CV, and we all went to school in the 70s and in the 80s. And largely, as far as I remember, most of the children I grew up with, from all shapes and from all social economic background, we all went to school. at least primary school. Today, the North is being touted as having the largest out-of-school children in the country. And it's a drain on this country. Because when we don't train these people, eventually we see the kind of weapon they become, just taken from what happened during the last end governance protests. And this is continuing. We're talking about nation.
We have lost the host. Are you hearing him?
No, he'll be back shortly. His network is also having challenges. Good
Fluctuating.
evening, sir. Yeah. So he was talking about the North having the
I
highest.
heard him right.
Okay.
Let me answer.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, it is a very big problem. Nigeria has 20% of the global out-of-school children. We have 20%, but we are less than 3% of the world population. In fact, we are 2.8 of the world population. But when it comes to out-of-the-school children, we have 20%, and majority of them are in the North. That was why I was telling you that getting power in your zone, getting politicians at the corridors of power from your own compound, from your own state, from your own local government, from your own tribe, from your own religion, doesn't automatically translate into socio-economic development for you. You can look at the trajectory. If you are going to take the profile of those out-of-school children, they are largely children of those who miss education, children of the poor, the disabled, and children in the rural area. I agree. We have a big problem there. That is why to say holding corridors of power doesn't automatically translate into economic empowerment. What we need to do is to look at why are these children out of school? And when the elites are training their children locally and globally in the best training institutions available, it's because they belong to the children of nobody. When you look at the power configuration, the business class, the top traditional institution, the top ranked politician, those in the top civil servants, their children are not among. It is those children. So long as we are not going to get a system that seeks to leave no one behind, that seeks to be fair and just to the children of everybody, regardless of the social background of their own parents, this problem is going to persist. There are socio-political dimensions, there are religious dimensions, there are economic dimensions. That was why I suggested that we need to discuss the ideological and philosophical foundations of nation building. The current crop of elites that we have in Nigeria, they have the capitalist orientation. They believe everything should be bought with money. They believe everything should be bought and paid by those who can afford it. Those who cannot afford it can go to hell. That is the idea of the capitalist system. But this is not the only model in the world. There are other models. Why do we take a model that is going to alienate, marginalize, disorient, and exclude the largest majority of the people? That is a recipe for crisis, and we need to address it.
We are losing your audio again.
Okay. It can be morang reverberate across the world, not even here. So this is my response to the issue of the out-of-school children. I hope you heard me.
Yeah, I had a bit of the answer, but
you are welcome back.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We keep dealing with this nation. Before I hand over to Jumoke, so that the way we normally do it, you see some people on the platform They may have some questions for you, or they may have contributions to make, also to speak to this issue of nation building that we're looking at. I have a last question for you, which is, how do we balance, and you have alluded to that a bit, how do we balance tradition and modernization? Because I see that in the last protest that was about to happen, the government started running to all the traditional rulers, talking to them, but we all know that they don't have any defined role as in government. We see what's happening in Kano. Governors can remove, and replace even the very revered position of the emir. How do we manage that process? Do you think they are still relevant in today's Nigeria? Should we find a role for them, or should they completely be done away with? I hope you had my own question. Okay.
I had you. You see, one of the process of nation building,
yes,
is building institutions.
Correct.
You call it PIR in governance. You have to develop policies, institutions, and regulations. Once you have policy in place, you have institutions in place, you have regulation in place, it is supposed to guide the actions of those operating the machinery of government. We can't escape from it. If you remember the famous documentary by late Professor Ali Muzrai, a Kenyan-born political sociologist who was one of the global thinkers of the 21st century, who was a visiting professor in the University of Jos. His documentary about the African triple heritage. Before our contact with the West and the East, we were different African civilizations at different levels of development. And we have developed technologies, values, material and social cultures that could find universal application. Along the line, we met with a section of humanity from MENA. MENA is Middle East and North Africa, through which we got Islamic influences into West Africa, North Africa, and some parts of the east coast of Africa, where you have Mombasa, Tanzania, where people speak Kiswahili. And then, in addition to meeting with the Arabs and Islamic influences from the Middle East and North Africa, we also came in contact with Europeans. Europeans came with colonization, they came with Christianity, with their own value system. So, an applications. The best way to go about it is to screen the ideas, institutions, personalities, the practices in existence, to find out which one fits and which one does not. And in doing this, each one should decide for himself. If somebody said, I don't want traditional institutions in his own place, let the majority in that enclave decide. If some people say they want it, let them allow it. After all, we all look to Europe out of inferiority complex. You have kings and queens. Still, some of the countries have their queens and kings in place, as developed as they are, as sophisticated as they are. Why is somebody coming to tell me that this is my own ancestry in the name of modernity? Modernity should not be equated with westernization. That is cultural imperialism. That is being subservient to the ideas of Black inferiority to the white. We must work with our heritage. We must decide for ourselves. I go back to my original position that any institution, who does it serve? Is it serving pure elite or is it serving the masses? As far as I'm concerned, some people even want us to close the chapter of religion. But we have a revolutionary theologians in Latin America. Some of the people that led the struggle for independence were Christian clergymen and women. So you can have a traditional ruler who is revolutionary, who is progressive, who is God-fearing, who has integrity, who has passion for the people. And vice versa, you can have one who is a chronic group, who is an exploiter, who wants to grow and enjoy aggrandizement at the expense of the people. So you can't lump them together. The same thing, you have crook politicians, responsible politicians, crook civil society activists, responsible civil society activists. So it is a matter of screening to adopt and adapt what is going to suit our particular unique situation based on the trajectory of our history, based on the road we have covered on our march of existence. We didn't fall from the sky today. We have had some social background, some historical background, some technological backgrounds. So whatever we are today is a cumulative summation of the journey we have passed through. So as far as modernization is concerned, yes. But what is modernization, by the way? Modernization, all child being in school, having ability to read and write, participating in the community and national life, obeying the rule and performing civic duties, avoiding cultural practices that can harm the health and motivate the future, defending the freedom of the people. Is not entering a bungalow with glass, air conditioner, settee, all this bourgeois apparatus that you think you are being westernized. You can still be living in New York and have a primitive, bankrupt, outdated tendency.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I guess the real question is every region should decide, or every people should decide whether they need their traditional ruler. What I was just looking for really was, should there be a defined role for them such that the politicians cannot corrupt them? And, we used to hold them in high reverence. But we have a few people that want to ask questions. I will hand over now to Jumoke Akin-Taylor, another co-host who will moderate the question and answer session. She may have a few questions of her own, and you'll see a few hands. And some people may challenge some of the positions you have taken, but that's the way it works. Or they may just need further explanation on some of the things that you have said. So you are welcome again to the platform. Jumoke, I hand over to you.
Thank you, my brother.
Yeah, thank you, Pastor Sani. Good evening again, everyone. We have 3 hands up now, sir. And so, but before we take the questions, we have a short video that we are going to play just again in relation to what you have to a lot of what you have spoken about. Thank you. Go ahead, Faye.
Countries are not rich in proportion to their natural resources. If they were, Russia would now be the richest country in the world. Angola would be very rich, and there are many other countries that have a lot of natural resources, but they have not had an enterprise economy to develop those resources. Russia has everything: oil, gas, diamonds, platinum, gold, silver, timber, marvelous soil, but has been poor. She's also, on the second point, got very bad environment, the Aral Sea. I remember going to one communist country in about the 60s and seeing a powder coming out of a chimney of brown gas, which of course is a nitrous gas. And I was absolutely horrified. I said, well, what are you doing letting that happen? The lungs of the people must be terrible. This is acid. You can't let that go on. Tact has never been my strong point, as you know. And it is the countries that have had the wrong system which have not created the wealth, have not cared about people. Look at the other side. Japan, no natural resources. Switzerland, no natural resources. Taiwan, no natural resources. It is the political system which enhances the enterprise of the people and gives it a framework within which to operate, which will deal with this poverty.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and take Mr. So the way we do this is we take 3 questions together and then we ask you to address them. We try to keep it short. I would also try to record the questions in case there's anyone that is missed, and then we'll take the next three sets of questions. So I'm going to ask Temitope to please go ahead and ask their question, and then we'll have Bishop Afolabi and then Mr. Samuel Dada. So please go ahead, Temitope, ask your question. Unmute and ask your question.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, we thank the faculty for the beautiful lecture that has been given this evening. My first question is a yes or no answer, and it goes thus. Do you think there is a hope for this country to survive with the current leadership we have at all levels? And the second one is, how can we solve the security challenges all over the country? Thank you.
Thank you for keeping it very short. We'll have Mr. Afolabi. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, good evening. My question is 2 questions, actually. First one is the current political system of Senate and the House of Rep. Do you honestly think it's still sustainable? How can we can't continue to afford this kind of political system? So what are your suggestions how we can go forward? And the second one is, you had mentioned and talked about earlier about going to courts and everything and getting the right people into governance. How until we get a chairman of the electoral body independent, to be truly independent? How can we get a truly independent INEC, not only from the chairman, but from all officers of INEC? Then you might find the people, the right people actually running for governance and government offices. What are your suggestions to get a true and independent INEC or INEC officials? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Samuel Dada, please go ahead with your question.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Comrade, sir, I appreciate your efforts as an activist, but there is something I noticed in the Nigerian political space when it comes to protest. During the NSAS, when the southern part of Nigeria were protesting against the police brutality, Buhari was in power, and the people from the northern part, they make them to feel like, no, they wanted to overtake the regime of Buhari, and they refused to sympathize or to support the protests that was going on in the southern. But now we have the president from the southern. Even the president is not of my interest, and it will never be. But I found out that when they announced the end bad governance, the northerners took it up upon themselves and started protesting. So how do you think we can solve Nigerian problems when we have millions of people that falls into this category? Because these are the people that goes into elections that, do these malpractices for the politicians. So how do you think this problem can be solved? Because when you are talking about the coming together of the social party, political elite, this and that, I was just asking myself, this can never be done. Because I remember the first party in Nigeria, that is the Aminu Kano party of Balarabe Musa, when Shore went with that party, that, okay, socialist movement, revolutionary party, let's come together. They marched together, but the people couldn't even reckon with them. That is, I'm talking of the Redemption's party Kano, which is the oldest party in Nigeria. So these are the problems I'm seeing that is affecting us. What do you think about that? Because I'm seeing that we are going nowhere. Whatever the problems we say here, those poor people, those poor children that they've sent out of school, and they just believe in division, like fighting Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, all these political instruments they use against themselves. How do you think we can solve that? Because this is one of the things I noticed. It is good that the Northerners are coming up for protest now, but why is it that it is when Yoruba man is there? Because I believe tomorrow now, if a Northerner becomes the president again, they will stay indoor. So please enlighten me on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. So go ahead, sir. If you can take those 3 questions, do you need me to review them, or you've captured them?
No, I'm okay.
Okay, thank you.
The first person asked whether there is hope for Nigeria. Yes, I believe there is hope for Nigeria, but it's not going to be easy. We have to do the right thing, and it's a collective responsibility. I'm never going to be a prophet of doom and say there is no hope. I know we have challenges, but we are not alone. If I had written a full lecture, I would have told you about VUCA and the global mega trends. Please, members of our audience, read about VUCA, V-U-C-A, and then read about the global mega trends. These are advanced social science concepts. VUCA says the world is now volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And this is coming from scholars of advanced country. So there is a part of the tragedy in Nigeria is global in nature. A good part of it is local. But the local, some of it is corruption, some of it is lack of competence. So I believe there is hope for Nigeria if very few people are going to wake up and mobilize the critical mass to bring change in the society. The second one about the security challenge. The security challenge is multidimensional. There is physical security, a Boko Haram, rural banditry, separatist group going violent, or on a deeper level, there are associated concepts with security called food security, job security, water security. We have complex security problems, and all of them are manifestation of lack of good governance. You can trace their root to a bankrupt, incompetent, and selfish elite class who diverted the resources that could have been used in nation building to provide for the majority to their selfish parochial advantage. If we wake up and do the right thing, we can restore hope in this country. Many countries have gone to the brink and they retreat their steps, and they are now on the growth trajectory. The current political system that we have bicameral legislature with House of Reps, with Senate, and whether we should go back to the parliamentary system where this is the elite contraption as far as I'm concerned. Whether it is presidential, the attitude, the character, competence, the integrity, the God-fearing disposition of the operators of the system will make the difference. We used to have the parliamentary system, 1960 to 1966. Before the first coup truncated it. Are Nigerians happy with it? There were a lot of concerns, and they have been documented. So it is an easy way of thinking that, hey, presidential system is not working. Let's go back to parliamentary. I assure you that any system you adopt So long as it's the same characters that are going to operate, there is not going to be much differences in the lives of the people. So it is the attitude, value system, make-up, knowledge, ideas of the operators of the system that will make the difference. You can have, if the chairman stealing 100 million, and you can have one person stealing 15 trillion, one tip out stealing 1,000 people. So as far as I'm concerned, the parliamentary, presidential, it is the operators that will make the difference. Once you have a visionary and transparent with the right operators that know their mandate, that know that if they breach their social contract with the electorate, they can be defeated in the next election. People will begin to behave themselves. But so long as election is up for sale to the highest bidder, where presidential candidate will give all the delegates $11,000, and they will take it and come back home. And during election, they will distribute slippers, bread, sardine, dodo, pure water, and say that is dividend of democracy. There is not much difference there. Then about the people in INEC, this is one of the defects that we have, that it is a president, a sitting president, who is a partisan politician belonging to a political party, was given the constitutional power to appoint the electoral officials. So if you tell the lion and the goat who is going to appoint the judge, you know what is going to happen. So that is one of the constitutional defects. We should find a remedy. How? Look at how it is done in other countries. Learn, copy, adopt, fine-tune, and implement in our own society. But so long as a sitting president who belongs to a political party, who has interest in winning second term, who wants a fellow party man to succeed him after his tenure, is going to appoint direct or indirect loyalists that will do direct and indirect bidding to return the party of his choice. Because they will tell you, you rob my back and I rob your back. I will appoint you and you do my bidding. It is a pity. This is one of the legacy of the military rule. Nigerians should work to address that. Then we go to the last question about the NSAS, where Southerners participated and the Northerners did not participate. And then when it comes to end bad governance, and the Northerners participate and the Southerners do not participate. Well, as far as I'm concerned, you are falling into the trap of the ideas that are keeping people down. In the beginning of my presentation, I told you that people are divided using fault lines. Today, the oppressor may use religion. Tomorrow, he might use ethnicity. Next tomorrow, he might use regionalism and say, yeah, the North is doing this, the South is doing that. That is what the elite play each part of one sector against another. You are playing the The moment you start seeing yourself as I belong to the North, belong to the South, you cannot unite. And the current system, the status quo will continue. But let me give you my take. The NSAS issue was a non-issue in the North. There was no harassment of the average citizen in the North by the NSAS. That is not a broad social movement. As far as I'm concerned, it targeted a particular group of people. It was not a widespread operation like hunger. But let me tell you, when Tinubu came from the South, He was voted largely by the North. Go and look at the result. Northwest gave him more votes than what Southwest, his home base, gave him. Go and look at it. If you remove any vote from the North, North Central, Northeast, Northwest, even though we have presidential candidate from the North, Tinubu got more votes than our own uncles, because we believe in the principles of stabilizing the country. Let the North rule, let the power go to the South, even though we are opposed to them, even though they are bourgeois, even though they are oppressing us. We need to have a country before we can ask for freedom. That was why we voted for him. We said, Atiku, how can you contest after Buhari 8 years? How can you contest? We should be gentlemen. If we want to keep this country together, let's vote a Southerner. And we voted Asuwaju. And now Asuwaju did two things that are not good to everybody in this country. He removed petroleum subsidy without a plan in place. The cost of petroleum products came from 195 naira to 950 naira today in Northern Nigeria. It affected everything. Going to work, going to plant, going to school, feeding, working, everything. That singular act, which he did without an alternative arrangement in place, affected generality of the people. The North is an agrarian society. And once they have never had problem of food. There was drought in 1974. There was drought in 1984. But people managed to survive it. But now, with touching the price of the most critical commodity in the Nigerian economy, parents have to change how to go to farm. So that affected the generality of the people. And they decide to protest. Don't forget, we are a federalism. Each one can grow, protest, align, vote based on his own peculiarities and his own interests. Then, number two, the devaluation of the Naira. No right-thinking government in the whole world can plot its currency when it is import-dependent. Nigeria is an import-dependent economy because the structural adjustment program initiated by the military regime of President Ibrahim Babangida destroyed our domestic industry through listening to the World Bank and IMF, through devaluing our, through opening our borders, through commercialization. Let us take a look at that issue. We were promised that government is spending so much money on public enterprises that we are corrupt, unproductive, and let government privatize them. Let government withdraw subsidy in education, water supply, power, healthcare, so that the government will have more money to give us infrastructure to grow the economy. But from 1985 to 2024, 30-something years or 40-something years, that hypothesis have failed. Nigeria is now a debtor nation. That hypothesis that commercialization and privatization is going to make resources available to the government. Yes, it has made resources available to the government, but it was largely the nation building people. So for us to work together, it is not that Tinubu, in Hausa we have a proverb that if somebody tells you in the morning that and he tells turn around in the evening, and say, I don't probe you again. You should find out for yourself what happened during the day. That in the morning, during election 2023, Tinubu got majority vote for Northern Nigeria. And after a year, the Northerners were on the street protesting bad policies. And they were right. I supported them. But I knew that we are not mature to do peaceful protests. So I discouraged people from participating in the protest. But those who believe they have a point to do it, they were right. They were right. The whole elite in the north, those in political power, religious leader, particularly the Sunni Izala movement, those in political power, the traditional rulers, the Sultan, all talk against it. But there are other forces in the north. We are very complex, we are very diverse. A section of the north decided to protest. And it is not because Tinubu is from the south, you are missing the point. It's because he withdrew subsidy, which made cost of living unbearable, even to the civil servants. And he failed to change the salary immediately. If the president had listened to me, the day he withdrew the subsidy, he will have done an interim increment in the salary of the workers. He will have released palliatives into the economy by paying pension of federal workers, by paying domestic debts of domestic contractors, so that there will be cash flow in the economy. People can invest, people can buy, but there was nothing in place. He set up a belated committee, and the committee were audacious to ask for 1.8 billion to talk about how much salary increment are we going to have. And the president said 500 million. That is the bourgeois class for you.
Thank you very much. I assume you've that's your response to those the first set of 3 questions, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll take the last set and then we'll play video. We have Auntie Yemi Ransom Kuti, we have Alex Aji, and there's also a question from the chat that I am going to read. Okay, so we have Dr. Tahi Mohammed also. So please go ahead, Auntie, with your question.
Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Good to see you guys, Pastor Sonny, Jumoke, the light of our evening. Good to see you. Comrade, it's so refreshing to hear such a deep and broad and intellectual presentation from you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Aluta continua, Comrade.
Victoria Asata.
Amen to that. I just have a few questions to maybe help us elucidate more on the very, very succinct arguments that you made. I want to find out what you think about the role of our culture. Because in our culture, you know, the head of the household or wherever controls everything and compels everyone to do his bidding. And this seems to reflect in our politics as well. I don't know what you think about how we can manage that, because other countries were also patriarchal, but they've evolved. How do we manage it? Then you talked about the very expensive process of politics, of running for elections. I don't know if you have any thoughts about how to manage political party funding, how to cap the exorbitant amount that people use to run for election. Then what do you think about more effective ways to hold our subnationals responsible at the state and the local government? And finally, what expectations are you a little bit encouraged? Because underpinning all that we've been saying is the rule of law. If people are not abiding by it, then every other thing we're saying is not going to result in positive outcomes. So are you kind of encouraged by the incoming Justice Kekere to become the new CJN? Does that give you some at least rays of hope? Let me thank you once again for that very, 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 very passionate and very, comprehensive, full of the history and the various strategies that we must undertake. But let me say thank you once again for being here. We really enjoyed your lecture. Well, I did. I don't know about others, but I really did.
Tahir.
Thank you.
Seconded, Auntie, seconded. Mr. Alex, please go ahead with your question. Oh, we've asked you to unmute, so please go ahead and unmute and ask your question. Alex? Okay. I've asked you to unmute. Okay, if Alex is not there, I'm going to move on to the next. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead with your question. Sir, if you don't mind muting, if you're not ready to take this question, we'll move to the next one. Okay, I'm going to ask the next person to please go ahead. Dr. Tahir Mohammed, please go ahead with your question.
No, okay,
no, I haven't, sir. I'm not coming.
Oh, sorry.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Comrade Sanusi, for your wonderful presentation. My question here is, during your presentation, you talk about one of the ways to take care of this problem is human capacity. And of course, you also talk about high percentage of out-of-school children, especially in the north. And of course, we are all aware some state government in the north, for example, have made some effort, like try to bring legislators that will be able to bring up policies that will discourage issue of begging and to bring children back to school. And we are also aware of some religious concern from some religious stakeholders that did not actually support that policies from some governors that actually started it. So don't you think the political leaders, in this case, their hands are tight, since they are trying to bring policies that will be able to reduce the number of out-of-school children, but yet, looking at it from religious aspects, it's like a way of impending the effort. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and take Professor Grange. Go ahead, man. I've asked you to unmute.
Thank you very much, Jumoke. And thank you, Comrade Sanusi.
Thank you, ma.
Yes, like my sister Yemisi has said to you, that, really your presentation is first class. And, it actually makes us feel that we are not making the best use of the human resource that we have, the rich knowledge that exists in the community. Having said that, I believe that you have answered most of the questions that one would have liked to ask. The only one that I feel I need to ask now is about what do we do with the sequestration of some of our elites in the diaspora. how can we get them to contribute to the revolution that should take place? You know, if here they are, they're the same Nigerians, but they are really prospering in a different environment. And obviously it's because the environment is more, you know, is more sane, I would say. Let me just say, put it like that. It's more encouraging for them to put in their best. So I would like you to take a look at that little area there. We've said that we want to form a movement, etc. Can the diasporans be part of this movement, or can they actually help to lead the movement? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So you have those three questions, sir, and I'm just going to read one from the chat room from Madam Bolade Thomas. Thank you for this interesting session. My question, do you think religion has a role to play in non-development of our society? And I think it falls in line with also Dr. Mohammed's question. So if you can take all those questions, sir, and then
Please,
we will play a
repeat
video
Bolade's question.
Her question is, thank you, and I'm just going to read her entire comment. Thank you for this interesting session. My question, do you think religion has a role to play in non-development of a society? And I believe that was also similar to the question that Dr. Mohammed had also asked. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So thank you. Let me start with the last question by Bolade about the role of religion. Religion is an innocent tool. It depends on what you make about it. If you are going to look at the DNA of religion, religion talks about the existence of supreme being that created the world. And he said commandments of what is right and what is wrong. And he concluded by saying, I have reward whatever you do during your sojourn on earth. A lot of the countries in the world started as religious theocratic society. That is what you call societies that are governed by religious leaders, theocratic societies. Up to today, Vatican is a theocratic society. Saudi Arabia is a theocratic society. But you see their light 24 hours. They are not a democracy. No election takes place in Saudi Arabia. The leaders inherit their forefathers. But they are modernizing their economy. Every year, 8,000 pilgrims go to Saudi Arabia. All of them, when they go to the loo, they have water to bath themselves. And you don't see garbage littering the street. You receive 8 million tourists for 2 weeks in 2 cities. And the city is clean every day. Every evening, everywhere is clean. So religion, to me, is a positive force in society. Because if we believe there is no consequences for our action, we can do whatever we wish and go free. The innate wickedness in people will manifest. Some people can use religion to exploit and oppress other people. But through education, capacity building, civic education, each sector of the society, the cultural, the religious, the political, the economic, the environmental, can be managed in such a way that we have a better society for the interests of the people. Religion is a tool in the hands of the people. Good people will use it in the good, bad people will use it in the bad way. Like Western education, history of Western education in Nigeria. Government is a joiner. The churches, voluntary agencies started before the government. Right now, you have some religious organizations building hospitals, schools, homes for the less privileged, homes for the vulnerable people. You have religious organizations giving scholarships, feeding the poor, investing in agriculture. So we need the good side of religion. And we need to collectively fight those who use religion for selfish ends. That is. Then we go to the issue of the culture. You know, I am an Africanist, and I believe the African culture is the best culture in the world. I might be wrong. Before it was corrupted by foreign influences. We have communal humanism. In Africa, we are our brothers' keepers. We have our cultural norms and values centered on tradition, respect for elders. We were not polluting the environment. We didn't have we didn't damage biodiversity. We don't pollute the environment. We might have our own police inadequacies and shortcomings, like thinking that polio is resulting from spirit, not microorganism. But our culture has developed in such a way that we have something to share with the world. The earlier explorers, Clapperton, Mango Park, Richards, Landa, even early anthropologists, ethnographers, and even colonial officers, when they came in contact with Africa and they studied the African culture, they wrote accounts that painted us in glory. So, as far as I'm concerned, respect for elder, there was checks and balance in the African culture. The woman knows her place. She does not compete with the man. The man knows his place. He doesn't compete with the woman. The youths know their place, and there are orderly, organized, and systematic transition to adulthood, marked with colorful ceremonies and strict requirements. Only the eligible qualify to move to the next level. So as far as I'm concerned, as I have said earlier, if we want to move forward, we have to look at the African triple heritage, our original African values, what we learn from Arab Islamic ideas, and what we get from Christian Western culture. We need to adopt anything useful to our current situation and fine-tune it and implement for our own survival. Because now, some people don't know the dangers we are facing. Now we are focused only on relationship. On the other side, nature is at work. Global warming is taking place. And what is the consequences for Nigeria of global warming? Sahara Desert is expanding in all directions at the rate of 1 kilometer every 10 years. It used to be 25 years before. So you can know, when is Zaria going to be a desert? When is Kaduna going to be a desert? When is Abuja going to be a desert? When is Lokoja going to be a desert? That's the danger from Sahara Desert. And then the global warming on the other side is melting the frozen waters in the form of ice and glacier in the North and the South Pole. Global warming is melting them. And there is prediction that in the next 100 years, the sea level will rise by 3 meters. That is 10 feet. And all the coastal cities in the world are going to be lost. In Nigeria, where will Lagos be if the sea rise by 3 meters? Where will Port Harcourt be? Warri. And all the investment, including the beautiful road Uncle Tinubu is going to build at 15 trillion. When the sea level rise by 3 meters, that is about 10 feet, and the water submerge the coastline, where would that road be? So apart from looking at man to man, the social issues, we have to look at man versus nature, because nature is also at work. It is better for humanity to unite and work against social disorders as well as natural hazard, risks, and disasters. And those of you who study disaster, particularly water-related disaster, will discover that the frequency and the degree of damages to investment, to human lives and property is growing at a faster rate, at a more frequent rate than at any other era in human history. So it is not only man to man. It's not only this religion versus that religion, this tribe versus this tribe. That part of the country versus the other part of the country. No, it is all of us against nature. And because we are too preoccupied with our primordial dispositions and the way the elite are teleguiding us to be zombies, to swallow hook, line, and sinker, all their strategies of dividing us and ruling us in favor of themselves and their families. That is part of the predicament. So, talking about religion, talking about our culture, this is my take. The other issue is about the cost of governance and cost of democracy. I encourage the young generation among us to go and read about Nehu PRP. Somebody talked about Mala Aminu Khan, the partridge in northern Nigeria, that said, look, the North is not one. You have the alliance of the traditional rulers, the religious leaders, and the top business class, and you have the masses on the other hand. And he chose to be the leader of the masses. That PRP and NEF, nobody gives them one kobo. Every meeting you have to sponsor yourself. You have to provide, you give for your family. You have to pay for your transport, pay for your accommodation, pay for your own feeding. So it is part of our political history to learn what NEPU did in the 1950s, early 1960s, 70s, and up to the time it reincarnated into PRP. And it produced people like Balarabe Musa, and even Uche Chukwumereje, Lechuno Achebe, Wole Soyinka were all members of the PRP. At that time, the progressive forces were working together. Now we have been balkanized, subdivided and disoriented into clusters of religious groups, sectional groups, ethnic groups, and the progressive forces, the professional groups, the labor movements, the student movement. Nobody listened to them because they too, they are at the surface mercy of the ruling class. They are waiting to be. So we have a legacy of self-funding. Anybody who wants freedom, he has to pay for it. If we are not ready to pay for it, we must agree and surrender to be slaves, and for our children to be slaves and subservient, and for our grandchildren to also be slaves. May God forbid. Then there was about the holding subnationals responsible. I will laugh at you like the boss Indian film. The boss used to laugh. Ha, 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 ha. You have fallen into the trap of the ruling class. When the fire and the heat was shell at the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he wanted to divert attention. He told you that, look, well, I am giving local government money. I am giving state government money. What is the federal allocation of the federal government? Still, the federal government is taking lion's share, my brother. Don't be deceived. What is the revenue allocation formula? Still, the federal government is taking lion's share. Where does it go? Reconstruction of Dodam Barracks in Lagos, buying yacht for the president, buying presidential jet, buying SUV for members of the National Assembly, building a new house for the vice president. Where the hell are you? The president wants to decongest the power on his table by making you dilute your attention to the governors and to the local government chairman, the innocent souls. Still, the federal government is taking a lion's share. And either Buhari, Babangida, or Tinubu, you must know that ruling class is ruling class. So, yes, hold them responsible, but don't forget to hold Mr. President and his ministers. There was a minister for humanitarian affairs that was appointed within how many weeks? They wrote a letter for another serving minister to verify the list of beneficiaries, a contract of 500 million. Where are we? So these are trivial issues of the ruling class that want to commandeer your attention and to start fighting yourselves. As far as I'm concerned, the local government chairman, the governor, and the president, they are all ruling class of the current order. We must hold them accountable. They must all of them be responsible. And it is not right for Mr. President, when he see fire from patriots, to say, hey, it's not all the money that is with me. Some of the money is with their governors. Go and ask them. Yes, go and ask them. And some of the money is with their local government. These are all cosmetic changes. They are all cosmetic changes. They are not fundamental. They didn't address the root of our challenges. So you can transfer your aggression from Mr. President to Mr. Governor or Mr. Local Government Chairman, and let's see in 4 years whether there will be change in the lives of the people. Then,
thank you.
He asks about the chief judge, the new chief judge. I don't know her. I don't know her. I can't say anything about her. But as an optimist, I am praying she is going to be better. Me, Comrade Sanusi, I believe in women. I believe in capacity of women to make difference. I respect women. The best student in my class in primary school is a woman. And the woman has beat us in class. And I see myself different, but not better than women. So as far as I'm concerned, on account of being a woman, I'm going to give her the benefit of doubt. And I'm going to pray for her to succeed. And I'm going to appeal to all of us to support her to make the difference. And I want to appeal also that in Nigeria, there is so much media bully of public officials. Anybody holding public office is castigated dead on arrival. We think we are lumping them together to the extent that we cannot see one or two worthy of celebration. We need to look for something that we can celebrate. Are these guys the same? Or you can have one or two that we can say, no, this one is different. Let us celebrate him or her for the difference he or she has made. Then the other issue about out-of-school children. And we are not using resources available. Yes, I said it in my presentation that as far back as 1985, a political economist, I think he's originally from Kogi State, but he was lecturing in the University of Ibadan. Professor Badi Onimade, one of the foremost, the second political economist in Nigeria was Cloud Eke, Center for Advanced Social Science in the University of Ibadan. We have collection of their books. They have different approaches to understand the societal dynamics. The Political Economy of Nigeria, Bade Onimade and Cloud Eke, we need to read it now. Because right now, even the production of ideas of social science, of governance, of economics, like the video of Margaret Thatcher you show, are all tools of ideological propaganda. If we don't take time, we will sell the sword with which we can be hanged or our neck to be cut. Then somebody asks about the diaspora. The diaspora are part and parcel of Nigeria. And we have two types of diaspora. We have internal diaspora and we have external diaspora. External diaspora are those Nigerians that have left the Nigerian shores. And you can subdivide them into two. Those who go in search of opportunity and those who go out of necessity. Those who go out in search of greener pastures, they say, yes, there are better, greener grass outside the country. Let's go. They are our brother. Let us wish them well. And they are acquiring knowledge. They are promoting name of Nigeria overseas.
Yes.
And they are remitting hard currency. Then the internal diaspora.
Okay, Comrade, we are running out of time.
One point.
Almost
Internal
7.
diaspora. Let me make this point.
Okay.
The internal diaspora are Nigerians born outside their regional places. They are called settlers in Nigeria. You have an Igbo man Maikudi, Hausa man growing in Abakaliki. I have a house in Ilesha. So these people that adventure outside their home zone, they are also at risk, but they are the drivers of national integration. And we need to respect all of them. We need to use them. They have a role to play in the Nigerian survival. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take Mr. Momodu, and then just for 30, and then maybe we can have you wrap up with 1 minute because we're really up on time. And then I have some announcements before I bring Pastor Sonny up to close. So please go ahead, Mr. Momodu, with your question. And then we would have Mr. Sanusi close, respond to your question and close in 1 minute with his closing remark. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you so very much. Thank you, sir, for your presentation. Let me quickly give a little context to my question. And this is for the issue of hope that you talked about earlier. Now, if you bear with me, if you recall also, you know that kidnapping for ransom started in the Niger Delta, and it was targeted at expatriates, but it has since evolved into a lucrative enterprise. Now, we are also witnessing a troubling rise in domestic homicide, banditry, and other vices. And recall that Chief Awolowo once warned that the children of the poor, if left uneducated, will pose a threat to the peace and security of the elite's children. With the increasing number of out-of-school children, how can we expect a stable future for our country if we are unable to control the current crime wave as apparent as it seems daily? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you could close, if you could wrap that up, sir, with your closing remark, would appreciate that. Go ahead, Mr.
Thank you. Nation building includes protecting the territorial integrity of the nation, safeguarding the lives of the people. The inability of the Nigerian state and its security apparatus to check the menace of banditry and other sundry insecurity challenges is a clear manifestation that the current system is not up to its mandate, and the current ruling class have failed, and that it is up to the patriots to seek alternative, team up together and work together to save themselves and their little investment. Because if you are not secure in your own country, where will you be? My conclusion is that I want to thank the organizers of this session. I've never heard about them before. It was one of my acquaintance who was working in Zaria. She told me that there are some people, one NGO, they are hosting Africa leadership discussion. And if I can agree to the, I talk to them. I say, which topic? They say corruption. I say corruption has been over-discussed. We have nothing to discuss under corruption. And I gave her 5 topics. And then they selected nation building. And at least we have interacted. Now we know one another. We can build bridges, and nobody can do it alone. Nation building has a beginning, it doesn't have an end. It is a continuous process. Even whatever structure we adopt ultimately, either to dissolve Nigeria or to continue as one Nigeria, we have to address challenge of education, healthcare, food, water supply, infrastructure, power supply, and the totality of what is required to guarantee citizens a good life. And you cannot wish, there is no silver bullet. There is no magic you can do just because you have moved out of Nigeria to Biafra, that all these issues will fall in place and become sorted over. Wherever you are, you need to participate in nation building. Finally, I want to say, many of us want to go to heaven, but many of us don't want to die. The challenge of nation building will remain as it is, whether we are in one country or whether we have broken into 20 or so countries. May God bless all of you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share my thoughts and ideas with a broad spectrum of interesting and diverse people. Many people, I might not know them before, but at least today, we know one another. The reference point is the African Leadership Group and the sessions they hosted. We can build from there. Thank you very much. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, sir, for honoring our invitation. And we want to thank everyone that has participated this evening. We're very glad you're here. And most importantly, the fact that we have a diverse group from the North is also very important to us. And I just want to piggyback on what you said about whether we remain one country or not. We are going to be neighbors, even if we break into different countries. So we are always going to interact and with each other. So I ask, and this is our plea, that our brothers from the North, from the East, from all parts of Nigeria, join us in this effort of nation building. We're looking for collaborators. We are constantly reaching out to different groups because we know that we can't do this alone. Mr. President would always say that this is a collaborative effort and it is a movement, as you had mentioned. So we're inviting everyone to join us on this quest for nation building, but as a united Nigeria, as a united group of citizens, for us to continue to educate each other, for us to continue to uphold each other and be each other's keepers. There's a form in the chat room for you to please join. Complete that form and how you can engage with ALG. We also ask that you be an advocate for this discussion because this is how we can all come together. This is how we get the information and the knowledge we need to actively engage. So please share the information about this platform with yours within your network. We meet here every Thursday, same time, same Zoom link, and our YouTube. We're also on YouTube, so you can reach that. We have a lot of sessions on the YouTube. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. We're glad you could join us again this evening. Again, fill the form, and we look forward to engaging you next week. We have a very important topic. This is with in collaboration with the UN on SDG. Faye, if you can go ahead and project that flyer, we expect to see you here and invite someone. Again, thank you, Mr. Sanusi. We are glad you could join us. Comrade Sanusi, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Over to you, Uncle Oga. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jumoke. I think all that is left for me to do is really to thank you because you have thanked everybody and appreciated everybody. Comrade Mungode Sosai, we look forward to having you whenever we call upon you. And if there are other people we could also engage in the conversation as we reach out to more groups, more organizations, more individuals in this our effort to build our nation into a strong, cohesive force and unit. So once again, on behalf of Pastor Itwa and the African Leadership Group, we appreciate everyone that has spent their evening with us, listening to this very illicit conversation with Comrade Sanusi Maikudi. We hope to come again next week, Thursday, like Jumoke said. The conversation continues on our various social media platforms. Whatever you have to say, let's continue that conversation there. Have a good evening and enjoy the rest of the week. God bless you all.
Thank you. God bless you. God bless Nigeria. Faye, please project the flyer for next week.
Thank you, Auntie Shadi. God bless you. Afolabi, God bless you. Ali Ibrahim Makama, I acknowledge you. Ayodele Bello Gwazo Abdullahi, Bolaji Akinyemi, Dr. Tahir,
Bishop
Ebenezer
Uncle.
Gante.
You haven't acknowledged Bishop
I know
Afolabi.
I greeted him. I greeted him. I'm sure he had his name. Ekeoma Edit, Galaxy No Tido Akindaye. We greet you especially, Imam Tahir. God bless you for making this connection. We look forward to more connections from you. Kindly, Mati Luku, Lizzie Lawal, Ngozi, God bless you. Is Trump.
Pastor Tony,
I hope
we
he's.
also have our first guest from our first member from Ghana. He's on the platform. This is his first time of participating. So he's also interested in working with us in Ghana. His name is Gatti, Ebenezer Gatti. He's on here.
Yeah. I acknowledge Ebenezer Gatti. Ebenezer Gatti, wait for us. We are coming because we are doing GNS, Ghana Leadership Series, GLS. That will be coming soon. We appreciate you for joining the platform. God bless you. Enjoy your good evening. Every other person. Owele, we acknowledge you. Professor Grinch, God bless you. Sedif, Samuel Dada, Sani Abdullahi, greet you. Stephen Ipelibo, Tokumbo Tuyo, God bless you. Tunde Adilakun, Ugo, Auntie Emisi Ransom Kuti, God bless you. All right, everyone. Thank you very much. We acknowledge and greet everybody. I think we can end the session now and see you all again sometime.
Okay. Good evening, sir. We'll talk later. Faye, go ahead and you can end the session, please. Back office, please go ahead and end the session.